Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here and share our thoughts concerning the specific meaning of the Sigmund Freud Museum as a house museum and our renovation project that just started and should be realized in May 2020. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank Caroline Christoph Bakagiev and her team for the wonderful organization and friendly invitation. Thank you so much. My short reflection today will merely present interim results, showing the current state of our discussion and work at Berggasse 19, so I will not tell you something about the life of Sigmund Freud or details about his work. So it will be about the reorganization of the permanent collection, its presentation, and the expansion of the museum. As you already know, the site at the Vienna's Berggasse 19 is the scene where Freud worked and lived for 47 years, where he and a group of like-minded people focused on the unconscious and its impact on the human psyche around the turn of the last century. Around 1900, the new established science of psychoanalysis invented a cultural turn that had and still has a dominant influence on our self-image and understanding of social developments. Just in view of this, it seems to be worth preserving Freud's cultural heritage and as well as activating it for the current debates in the fields of natural sciences, humanities, and social cultural disciplines. The arts also play a key role in the relation to psychoanalytical issues. What you see here is we have an art window on the surface of the public space and the museum. And we like to present contemporary artworks there. So, because from the very beginning, like the Surrealist movement, as you know, today, literature, fine arts, film, performance offer a forum of discover and visualize specific aspects of the human psyche and the development of our society and its psychological state. But I will come to the arts and the specific role for the Sigmund Freud Museum later. There are so many house museums all over the world. You can visit and recall how their former inhabitants have lived and worked there, or what kind of art they loved, collected, or produced, such as all the wonderful museums we heard about today. Carried by the original objects that are exhibited there, it seems to be easy to slip into the role of the former inhabitants and take their position, to walk through their rooms or up their staircases like they did, looking at their belongings like they did. It is like the experience you would have at Marsfield Gardens in London, walking through the Freud Museum there, through the house where Sigmund Freud died in freedom on the 23rd of September 1939, 16 months after he and his inner circle had to flee the terror regime of the Nazis in Austria. Surrounded by the original furniture and antiques, you are able to envision Freud's study and treatment room as if he has just left. But all this is not the case in Vienna. There's a big difference between the Sigmund Freud Museum in Vienna and even the Freud Museum in London. And this is why Carol, the director of in London, and I call the two houses the two sides of one coin. In contrast to the situation in London, the Viennese Freud site represents a court place of memory, and therefore our visitors have to envision in order to see, you might say. The different processes of reception play an important role and mark the gap. The Freud apartment in Vienna is etched on the collective mind, mainly in two senses: as the birthplace of psychoanalysis that represents the beginning of a new age, and as a memorial site that recalls the loss of culture and humanity under the Holocaust in Austria. These two issues also include the desire to relaunch the spirit that once shaped the character of the melting pot Vienna, that was enriched by the Jewish population, its culture and intellectuality before the wars. So more than 100,000 visitors find their way to Berggasse 19 every year to see an exhibition place that's not larger than 280 square meters. So our place is highly frequented, like a place of pilgrimage. What remained after the expulsion of the Freuds in June 1938 are mainly the yard, the staircase with its etched windows and plank rooms, original in their structure. So in our case, the emptied rooms themselves mark the challenge and the question: how can we tell the story of Sigmund Freud's life and work in Vienna best at a museum that is characterized by a lack of original objects and exhibits, because the Freuds were able to take all their belongings with them when they left Vienna on the 4th of June 1938. The new concept for and extension of the Freud Museum focuses above all on the conveying the life and work of Sigmund Freud, in particular the development of psychoanalysis and the history of its impact down to the present day. And all this in an appropriate way that reflects the latest state of knowledge, illuminates the subjects critically and activates them for the current discourse. The goal of the new concept is to reactivate the specific atmosphere of the late 19th century place where Sigmund Freud and his family lived and worked, but without resorting to reenactment. Thanks to the photo documentation you can see on the left side by Edmund Engelmann, it would be possible to make an authentic recreation of the former furnishings of the apartment and practice in some of the Freud rooms, but this would distort important aspects of the history, the expulsion, and the deportation of the Jewish neighbors of the Freuds to the National Socialist extermination camps. The empty spaces left behind, which are so significant for both the place and its history, should be marked as such rather than covering them up by recreating a quo ante status. To provide as broad and at the same time as stringent an explanation of the contents, the reorganization proposes linking Freud's former living and work rooms with selected specific themes in accordance with their former functions and significance. What you can see now is the Freud in May 1938 sitting in his study, in front of him all his antiques. The walls of Freud's former study and treatment room will stay empty, which is quite a challenge for a museum and its curators, isn't it? In few showcases, the visitors will find some selected original items or documents that are related to the theory of psychoanalysis and its practice. Engelmann's photographs will be mounted on glass plates at eye level, hanging from the ceilings, and standing in front of them and looking through, the visitor is able to envision the former atmosphere of the room. The place where the couch was standing in former times will be highlighted but stay empty. So I was, some 2 years ago, I was in London to speak with the board there, and I told them that I don't want to have the couch back. And this is where they were surprised, and why don't, you will never get it back, but why don't you want to have it? And then I had to explain that it would be such a rebuilding a situation that we take something to bring it back, what will never and cannot come back again. So we have to focus on this issue because it's one of the important contents we have to tell. Yeah? So that's the story. Empty place. And now the empty place, the empty space where the couch was standing in former times is marked by a miniature, a gold miniature of Freud's couch made by Hans Hollein, this famous Austrian architect. So, walking back through the only two rooms that are in their original state, the famous waiting room where the psychoanalytic Wednesday Society met the primal cell of all psychoanalytic associations worldwide, and through the hallway, that's also original, in an original state, we enter Anna Freud's former practice for child analysis, which she opened in 1923. And interestingly enough, is that she painted her treatment room in the same dark red color like her father did. The private apartment of the Freud family was located vis-à-vis on door number 5, now the main entrance of the museum, but that will change. So in the future, the total area of this part will be devoted to the private life and development of the Freud family. The walls between Minna's salon, the dining room, and the living room were removed in the 1990s, now a space for changing exhibitions. And now I will show you a 3-minute film fragment from the Library of Congress, part of our current exhibition, the apartment it is called The Apartment is Doing Well, the Freuds at Berggasse 19. That gives you an impression of the dining situation. It was filmed by Marie Bonaparte, who was so helpful for the Freuds to flee the Nazis in 1937. So that was it's a very dark film. Martha, Ernst and Anna, and Freud, you can see Freud there, and Minna, his sister-in-law, Lynn, the Cha-Cha, and in the last seconds you will see Marie Bonaparte on the left side of Freud. Here she is. So she was the one who brought all this technical new equipment with her and made wonderful photographs of Freud and filmed the family. So, and the new exhibition concept also intends to show traces of the original wall paint, like an archaeological site. So then we will have in the floor above the library, so I will just flip through that. Also, okay. And to come back to the important role of the arts in the context of Freud Museum, and to give a short example how to link specific themes with the former function and significance of the rooms, we go downstairs to have a brief look into our current exhibition, Hidden Thoughts of a Visual Nature, on the upper ground level. An exhibition of conceptual art. The title of the exhibition refers to Freud's explanation about the meaning and character of dream thoughts and the founding document of psychoanalysis. The interpretation of dreams as follows. In the quote, "In the case of the dream work, it is clearly a matter of transforming the latent thoughts which are expressed in words into sensory images, mostly of a visual sort. And like hidden thoughts, wishes and fears can manifest themselves in our dreams, so too can art often reveal the dynamics and forces that shape the individual and the collective unconscious." So on the left side you can see work by Joseph Kossuth, and the quotation on the wall is from a passage from Sigmund Freud's book jokes and their relation to the unconscious. This quote illustrates the link between Freud's theoretical descriptions and the act of recognition and fusion prompted by art. And Freud writes here that thoughts are subjected to a quiet, extraordinary compression or condensation on the way they become images. So Joseph Kuschud uses the text and the theory of Freud like a made ready as an available conceptual architecture. In opposite, you can see Heimat Zobernik, and it says, "Do you suppose that someday a marble tablet will be placed on the house inscribed with the words, 'In this house, on July 24th, the secret of dreams were revealed to Dr. Sigmund Freud'? At this moment, I see little prospect of it." So Freud wrote that to his friend Wilhelm Fliess in 1900, and was underlining his revolutionary insight. Dreams are wish fulfillments. And in the veranda, we have a work by Wolfgang Berkowski and Sherry Lewine. And I think it becomes obvious that the presentation of art within this spatial context of Freud Former's working place creates a counterpart to the white cube. First, the art works as governed by the given spatial conditions of Freud's former consulting room that was never designed to present art. And at the same time, this very special environment where the father of psychoanalysis wrote his dream interpretation and developed his practice based on free association falls in one with the contents that are represented in and through the artworks. 3 minutes left. Okay. As you can see also by the following pictures, on the wall 2 works by Susan Hiller, and on the right side a very nice work by Georg Herold called Amor and Psyche. And here we have the couch of Franz West that becomes a metaphor for the talking cure in this context. And behind in the background, Chaim Steinbach, aha, referring to the so-called aha experience during the analysis. And John Baldessari, and my most favorite work is the work of Pierpaolo Calzolari that I installed in the former kitchen. And it's about, with a closed leather belt, about to appropriate and to be appropriated, and about the gender problematic in a very, very wonderful way. So thank you so much for your attention.